Hey everyone, welcome back to a short episode of the Francois Vorster Show. Today we have Jonathan Baron again with us for a short update, basically regarding the solar panel rebate, where we had a surprise, or maybe not a surprise, with the recent budget speech. So I thought we touched on that in our conversation, but our conversation was recorded in May 2023. And I just thought it might be wise for us just to check in on that again. And we've got a solar expert with us today as well, Lambrecht Botha of Orca Solar, and we'll have a chat with him. So in the recent budget speech, we didn't hear anything about the solar panel rebate for the individual. There wasn't any mention of it. It wasn't extended. So can we take it to be scrapped?
Yes, Francois. So unfortunately, the solar rebate for individuals had a sunset clause of 29 February 2024. And even though the Commissioner was petitioned to prolong this for another year, they didn't do so. So unfortunately, as of the 1st of March 2024, there is no more solar rebate for households.
And okay, so for solar, for households, for the individual, do you think it is has a large impact on the individual? Do you think for this financial year that it was relevant? Was there an uptake? And do the individual now suffer because of that not being extended?
Francois, so what's interesting is that if you look at the stats, then the imports of solar panels, because remember, we don't manufacture a lot of solar panels locally. Most of that needs to be imported. The import of solar panels was around the 1 billion a quarter mark before the end of 2022. There was a big uptake on this in the first quarter of 2023, but my gut feel is that had more to do with the phase 6 and 8 load shedding that we had towards the end of 2022. So what you then see is that in quarter 1 2023, it goes up to about 4 billion a quarter, and then in the second quarter up to about 8 billion a quarter. Now that second quarter comes just after the budget speech, but such a quick uptick, I think it's unlikely that the rebate was a major driver of that. It was more the inability of Eskom to provide power and the big power cuts that we had. Would it have had an effect? Yes, I do think so. But, Treasury also tends to look at these things, and quite often, they'll try something for a year or so. And then there's two things that they look at. One, how easy is it for them to administer this? And secondly, does it really make a difference in the economy? And if they feel that one or both of those are not there, then typically they would scrap that provision, and I think that's what happened here. So even though, yes, there was a definite spike in importation, I don't think this was the big driver of that, and one can see that towards the end of 2023, this goes right back down to about the 1 billion a quarter mark, and I think everybody was just running out their stock towards the end of the year.
I think that makes sense as well. I remember when the rebate came into action last year, we installed panels as well, but there was a massive shortage. Everyone we asked, and that can be as well due to the shortage and uptake, and then everything normalized again. So basically now it's done and dusted, but it's only now relevant that you can get your rebate from SARS in the end of this financial term. How does that work? I get a lot of questions of people, okay, so they've installed panels during this period, but how do they get their money back now? Are they getting the rebate in cash, or how does SARS look at it, and how can you go and handle the rebate?
Yeah, so Francois, what will probably happen is that the filing season for the February 2024 tax year will open very early in July, probably. At that time, individuals can then start filling in their returns and rendering them to SARS. And if you do your own taxes, you might know that, when you open up your returns, SARS asks you a number of questions. From how many places that you earn an income, which deductions do you typically have, and so on. And my expectation is that probably in this year, one of those questions will be, did you install solar at your home for which you expect to claim a rebate? So you would probably tick that and then put in the amount that you have spent on solar panels. And once again, remember that this is only on the solar panels and not on the batteries and the inverters. And then SARS, you will obviously render your return to SARS. SARS will assess and unfortunately probably audit you on this. So then you need to have ready your invoice specifying the amount that you spent on the panels, the proof of payment for the invoice, and thirdly, the certificate of compliance, which will then just confirm to SARS that the installation actually took place. Once that audit has been finalized, SARS will then either pay you your money, and remember that's capped to about 15,000 Rand max, or a quarter of the value of the panels that you installed, whichever is the smaller amount. Or you will pay a little bit less tax if you had to pay in, for instance. So you're typically looking, if you need to get your money back from SARS, I think if you render your return early at about August or September to get your 15,000 Rand.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to make. I think lots of people do not really know how it's going to work. And they might have thought that, listen, I'm just going to get a cash back from SARS, and that's not necessarily the case. It's going to basically form part of your whole tax profile, and in that it will be dealt with by SARS. And I think those supporting documentations are really important. And with my conversation with Lambrecht, we're going to touch on the COC as well, because I think that's a major problem for people in the day-to-day, because not many people do have the COCs. Something Lambrecht brought up in our conversation is, although this rebate for the individual or for the household has now been scrapped, there's still the other rebate for businesses that is there. It's working, but there's not, for someone like me, I don't hear of it often. What is that, and how does it work?
Yeah, so the rebate, this is actually not a rebate, it's a tax deduction. So you're not necessarily going to get money back from SARS, but it's going to reduce your taxable income as a business. So this rebate is in Section 12B of the Income Tax Act. And it has been around for a while, actually, even before 1 March 2023. So you could always deduct the money that you spent on, I call it photovoltaic assets. You could always deduct that in the year that you incurred it, because remember, normally a business will be able to deduct capital expenses over a period, over 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, that type of thing. But with solar, if you had a plant of under 1 megawatt, which is quite a large plant, you could always deduct 100% in year one. So that was a major sort of cash flow benefit. The receiver sort of paid 28 or 27% of your installation basically for you. As of 1 March 2023, that incentive was increased to 125% of the value of the installation. So you could claim all of your expense and then another quarter. Now, that is still ongoing. You're probably going to need the same supporting documentation that you would need, that we've just spoken about, basically. But that also has a sunset clause of 28 February 2025 for the 125%. So we might after that see that going back to 100% or some other deduction method. So if you are looking at installing solar at your business, it might be worth your while to have a look at doing so before 28 February 2025. You will definitely get that additional deduction then.
Yeah, that's quite an important thing, I think, for people to take note of. Jonathan, yes, I think that's basically the few points from our previous conversation that I would have just liked to touch on. Is there any final thoughts from your side that you would like to leave with the viewer regarding this? Otherwise, we can wrap up.
No, Francois, I think we've touched on all the points. I think maybe the last thing is that we were all sort of thinking that the household rebate would continue, and it didn't. So we also probably then will not see a continuation of the 125% beyond February 2025. So I don't think one should take a chance on that being extended. If you want to do solar in your business, rather have a look at doing it sooner rather than later.
Perfect. Thank you for your time. Always enjoy talking with you.
Thank you once again, Francois. Always a pleasure to be on your show.